Hi, this is my History 203 term project, and my prompt was to compare and contrast the events leading into the U.S. involvement in the War of 1812, Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, and the Korean conflict, and also describe how our involvement affected the development of domestic and foreign affairs in the countries involved. Starting out with the War of 1812, this would be one of the most important wars in American history. This because this would be the first American war, and also considering the fact that there was such great opposition between all Federalists opposing this war. Madison's address to Congress, he lists what the British had done to cause him to declare war. He lists that the British were interfering with trade, inciting Indian attacks on the frontier, and also impressment on sailors. Madison declared war against the British because he believed the country was halting America from expanding its land claims and growing nationally with its trade. James Madison had created a big contrast between the Federalists and the Democratic Republican Party. In William Dunlop's Recollections of the War of 1812, he says, quote, "Men who were afraid to join the regiments from the indifferent estimations they were held in by their brother officers." End quote. This meant that majority of soldiers were only fighting for their country and had no purposeful reason. Next, on to the Spanish-American War. Domestically, America wished to acquire new lands to help boost the economy and also look out for the well-being of the territory acquired. An influential character at this time was Theodore Roosevelt, and he pushed for a Spanish-American War. He eventually convinced President McKinley to send a battleship to Cuba to look over the area. In February 1898, the USS Maine mysteriously exploded. Following that, the Americans declared war against the Spanish. Following an easy victory, the Americans foreignly gained new territorial acquisitions. Now to World War I. After the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, America sought to help the British by sending war materials such as guns, ammunition, and other necessary materials. America had no direct reason to join the war until the sinking of the Lusitania, which was a cruise ship going over the Atlantic, sunk by a German U-boat. Domestically at this time, Woodrow Wilson helped drastically increase the economy. After President Wilson's 14-point speech, the English government said, quote, "The Allied governments have given careful consideration to the correspondence which has passed between the President of the United States and the German government. Subject to the qualifications which follow, they declare their willingness to make peace with the government of Germany." End quote. And now on to World War II, which is most notably known for the attack on Pearl Harbor. With the Japanese surprise aerial attack, the U.S. was swiftly brought into the war. Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, began to expand its army and soon conquer neighboring countries. Hitler said, quote, "We shall only talk of peace when we have won the war. The Jewish capitalist world will not survive the 20th century." Though FDR planned to use the New Deal to help America get out of its economic struggle through the Great Depression, World War II would be a great help into the economical advancement in America. D-Day plays an important role in the war and also led to a costly campaign to liberate Northwest Europe from German occupation. Post-World War II, the UN was created, also known as the United Nations. This is a group of 29 countries, including majority of the Allied powers, in an attempt to keep peace and bring harmony in Europe. Lastly, the Korean conflict, America's attempt to stop the spread of communism in Korea. North Korean army shut down the 38th parallel, which had divided North and South Korea. They soon attacked South Korea, which led to the U.S. coming to South Korea's aid. With the creation of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, this was a major stepping stone in foreign policy of America. Now lastly, I'm going to compare and contrast all of the wars together. Now, in comparison, all of the wars had a very economic growth standpoint between and during, especially the War of 1812, because majority thought that the War of 1812 was useless, but it actually had a major economic growth point after. Another comparison would be between World War I, World War II, and the Spanish-American War, how we were attacked first. Now, some believe that the Spanish-American War was not actually an attack, and which eventually might have been engine failures, but in all reality, through propaganda, it was seemed that it was an attack against us first. A major contrast would be foreign policies over the course of American history, between the UN being created after World War II and NATO being created after the Korean conflict. There are also another bunch of foreign policies that have also been created. By comparing and contrasting the War of 1812 to World War II, there's a big difference between the amount of support that each war had. The War of 1812 had very little support from the Federalist Party, while World War II had an accompanying amount of support, as in they had the attack on Pearl Harbor, so American citizens felt that they needed to rally up and join the war. Thank you for watching, and these are my sources.